Hello and welcome back to another episode of J-Pod, Jefferson School District's podcast. And I'm your host, Superintendent Brad Capener. I'm joined by my two wonderful co-hosts today, Chris Shaw and Becca Mallory. Good morning. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so fabulous because it's Friday.
I know, right? Friday is a good day. This is a celebration of sorts because it is our 20th episode.
Woohoo! I can't believe we've done this 20 times.
20 times.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun. It's been
Me too. I feel like a pro now.
Yes.
We've been meeting lots of great people and finding out about all kinds of wonderful things.
Yeah.
We've been helping to build bridges with our community and sharing all of the great happenings in our little district, which is, I think, really helpful. So we've talked about the Willamette Career Academy and
That
future.
was fun.
That was fun. Future Farmers of America. We met with a bunch of our students. They were amazing.
Yeah.
We've had a couple on literacy and really helping people understand how not only how literacy works, but we also talked about what parents can do to help their child, their little ones before they come into kindergarten.
I think a lot of that was great information that most parents probably didn't know.
Right. Yeah.
And we had the famous Sarah Withy on there, so that was awesome.
The famous Sarah Withy, absolutely. And she loved every minute of it.
Oh, yes. And then the following week, we had our boys on for the FFA one. So that was really cool.
Yes.
The whole Withy family.
That's wonderful. So, and then we've had one on social emotional learning.
Yeah.
Hope Squad, which is something that's we're introducing this year, and that's been a really great.
I think that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that one's really good.
And it's great to see the kids getting so involved in things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what we often don't see is how involved our kids are, how engaged they are in school, and what they're doing that really inspires them and keeps them coming to school. And so, just having a podcast like this allows us to highlight those pieces because there's so many great things happening in this school district, and it really is. These are stories that need to be told and shared.
Agreed.
Yeah. So today is Friday, and it's the day before we go on Thanksgiving break.
Oh, I need it for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are deep into our semester here, and everybody is getting to that point where they need a little break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, because it gets hard, and Thanksgiving break comes, and it's just a time to let off a little steam. And our school district takes a week because we value family and balancing our busy lives with quality time with our loved ones. And it's always been kind of a value of ours and a priority. So,
and I love that we give them time to travel. Like a lot of schools usually get the day of Thanksgiving off, but then good luck having to travel anywhere outside of the state if you're going to do that. So I love that we give time for travel to really get to the family.
Absolutely. I'm having to go all the way to New Mexico this year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get to exactly what you guys are going to be doing for Thanksgiving in just a minute. But we are going to today just talk a little bit about the history of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We're going to just kind of give everybody a little history lesson. I used to be a history teacher, so I'm going to take this opportunity on kind of
right up your alley.
It's right up my alleys to lecture. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to lecture, but I am going to talk and give a little bit of information for us all to know as we go on our way to Thanksgiving. So, sometimes it's like, why do we do things? Like, why do we celebrate this certain day or whatever? And so today is about that. So on that note, what are you guys going to be doing next week? You just said you're going to travel somewhere. So where are you traveling?
So
Chris?
I'm going to go visit my parents who've recently moved closer to my brother who lives in New Mexico, Lovington, New Mexico.
Okay.
And because of its location, it's going to be a lot easier for me to get there by car than it is by plane.
Oh, so you're driving all the way.
I'm driving all the way. So, it's a good, 18 to 19 hours of driving straight. So it's going to be my daughter and I who are going, and my daughter loves to do photography. So we've got stops planned all along the way. We're going to hit the Glass Beach near Fort Bragg. It's something she had learned about and has always wanted to see. And they have a beautiful botanical garden there. So we're going to go there. And then that's going to allow us to go through San Francisco, and she'll get to see the Golden Gate Bridge for the first time.
That's
Oh,
cool.
great.
Very
And,
fun.
That's always neat.
And she is a huge fan of Ansel Adams. And so, and she loves his nature photography. So we are going to go to Yosemite and to the Ansel Adams National Forest. And so we are going to go see Half Dome and all those places that he took pictures of in Yosemite.
Wow, that's an amazing
That's
trip.
awesome.
And so, you're not just going and having a meal or something or hanging out with relatives, but you're also doing some hobbies and
Oh,
some
absolutely.
learning as well.
Exploring.
Oh, yeah. And it'll be a lot of fun. And I'll be like, can we go climb that? And she'll be like, no, Dad, we can't go climb that. And then it'll be kind of a straight shot across the desert. There's not a whole lot I want to see along the I-10 corridor that far south. And then we'll probably hit the Alien Museum in Roswell.
Oh, of course.
It's a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Always entertaining. And then White Sands, New Mexico. So it's a lot of fun.
Good. Well, that sounds like quite the week. How about you, Becca?
I wish I was going to have a great little road trip like that. Our road trip is going to be December. So we are doing very low key, just having a couple friends over for dinner and
Nice.
enjoying just a simple, I mean, honestly, it's all about sleeping in and time with my kiddo. So I'll take it where I can.
Yeah. Well, my daughter's flying in from Flagstaff. She's attending college, and so I haven't seen her for a while. So it'll be really great to have her home, and my mom lives nearby, so we're just gonna have family over, and we are going to chill, have some relaxation time. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing, and so let's talk about a little bit about this little holiday of ours. It reaches back far back in our history, like the 1600s,
Way before I was born.
way before you were born, Becca. And it involves a group of people who left England so they could practice the religion the way they wanted, thought they needed to be practiced. So it wasn't easy to be different from the official Church of England back then, which was the Anglican Church. And it would be like if the U.S. had one official religion and forced you to be that, and got angry if you did something different and forced you to not do the way you wanted to do it.
That'd be crazy.
That would be hard. And so the separatists is what they were called. They weren't called the Pilgrims. They didn't call themselves the Pilgrims, but they called themselves the separatists. And that movement was initially illegal in England. And many of the separatists were persecuted by the state and its church, and they were often labeled traitors. Many separatists fled England for more tolerant lands, and one of those was Holland. So in 1608, they left England to try to be able to practice the religion and thought that Holland might be the answer. And in 1620, the Pilgrims famously settled in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and they met up with the Puritans and who settled Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1630. So they came over in 1620, but they got discouraged with Holland because they kind of viewed it as too sinful.
Interesting.
So they didn't like how their children were being corrupted it was like a too liberal of a society for them.
Okay.
And they liked the religious freedom, but not necessarily the society they were living in. They felt that their kids were being exposed to things or lifestyle that they didn't agree with. And they also didn't quite fit in being from another country. They had to endure, discrimination and, not being able to get jobs sometimes because of discrimination and so forth. So Holland wasn't ideal for them. And they were looking elsewhere, and they heard about this new land over in America. And their minister, I'm going to flex here in just a second. Their minister was John Robinson, right? And he's like the famous English Puritan minister who was the pastor of the Pilgrims. And he was the one who actually got them to do this, encourage them to go on this journey to North America on board the Mayflower and the Speedwell in 1620. And so my flex is he's my direct descendant.
No way.
Yeah. So John Robinson, in fact, there's a big picture of him on the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, D.C., of him preaching to the pilgrims, and that is my direct relative.
Wow.
So, but he didn't come over himself. He just pushed them off and said, "Go, you should do this, have fun." But he was too old to, make the journey himself. So he didn't go, but his family did, which are also my relatives. So, and so they took 2 ships. One was the Mayflower, of course. Everyone knows about the Mayflower, but the other one was the Speedwell.
Right.
And the reason we don't talk about the Speedwell is that the Speedwell took on water and didn't make it past England.
Oh gosh.
So they actually went, they made it to England, but they had to stop there. And some of the people, switched over into the Mayflower, but you know how small those boats were.
Right.
And my relatives actually had to stick in England for another couple of years and then get there. So,
Lame.
so they didn't go over on the Mayflower. They came over a couple of years later.
I had some relatives that came over a couple years later as well. John Shaw, and he actually came over, developed a big plantation in Plymouth, and actually have some of his relatives married children from the Mayflower.
Well, maybe our relatives knew each other. Wouldn't that be crazy?
That would be crazy.
You just never know.
Yeah.
Wow. Small world, right? That's what they always say.
It is. It's true. So anyway, the as we many of us have heard that when the separatists came over here, they weren't used to living. It wasn't like there was a grocery store down the street. I mean, they had to figure it out, and they had all the supplies on their ship, but of course that's not going to last. The first winter was just brutal, and most of the colonists remained aboard the ship because that's where it was warm, and that's where they had their supplies. But they suffered from exposure, from scurvy. They had other contagious diseases, so it wasn't a good thing. And many of the crew and the original passengers died. Actually, they didn't make it very long. But then the remaining settlers moved ashore, and they received a visit from the Abenaki tribe, who greeted them in English. And have you guys heard of Squanto? Did you ever teach Squanto? Is that a thing anymore? Did we do that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember.
Like
but
first grade, like when you talk about the,
I was gonna say it's first grade. A lot of Thanksgiving stuff goes over their head.
Yeah. Okay, but I just like the Squanto sometimes comes out in a story, so I wasn't sure if that's still a thing or not. Anyway, Squanto was an American native, and he was actually had been kidnapped by the English earlier and sold into slavery, and then he escaped to London, and then he returned to his homeland. So he knew English, and so he came and helped the Pilgrims. They were weakened by illness and malnutrition, and so he helped them understand like how to cultivate corn and get sap from maple trees and catfish in the rivers and how to avoid poisonous plants. Always a good thing. So, so he helped them forge an alliance with the Wampanoag tribe, and in 1621 they had their first harvest. Right. And this is Governor William Bradford. And he's like, this is so exciting because we're alive and we have, these people that have helped us. So let's have a celebratory feast. And so they met for 3 days and just feasted for 3 days. So our one day, imagine that, just eating turkey. Well, actually, we have a week, though. We're celebrating for a week.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to cook a Thanksgiving dinner every day for the next week, but
when I think about the pies, I'll probably be eating pie.
I do usually have a lot of leftovers.
They'll be feasting for sure. So anyway, theirs feast was 3 days, and so that's remembered as America's first Thanksgiving. But the food was different, right? They didn't have turkey. Right. They didn't have ovens.
Right.
They couldn't cook like we could. They didn't have pies or desserts. They had goose and codfish.
That's right.
And lobster, which wouldn't be bad, right? Lobster would be pretty good.
I mean, if it wasn't so expentive.
That's right.
It's nice when
like
you
$10
go down
a lobster
to the water
tail.
and pull them out.
Right. I wonder if they boiled them. They must have. Like, how did they?
I think about this often.
Who just said, let's boil it and throw it alive in a boiling thing? Who did that?
Yeah, I definitely think about this more often than I should. Like, who was the one who discovered what a poisonous plant was? Or that, like, bananas are safe to eat, but don't eat the skin.
Yeah, like they watch them and go, don't do that again.
Yeah.
Right. So,
all right, who's the guinea pig this time?
Exactly.
I wonder that about coffee all the time. They tried to boil it and eat the beans and decide the water was better. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all these things are fascinating how we've evolved over time, right? But in so Thanksgiving, so that's like the first one, right? But that wasn't like an automatic. Everybody is doing this celebration every year, but yet people did celebrate over time. And in 1789, George Washington, our founding president, issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by a national government of the United States. And he called upon all Americans to express their gratitude for a happy conclusion to the country's War of Independence and the successful ratification of the U.S. Constitution. So that was kind of cool. But it was kind of haphazard. Like, he had the official thing, but that wasn't like everybody did it on the same day or celebrated in any concerted way like we do today. It didn't actually happen until the Civil War, of all things. So actually in 1827, this woman, writer, Sarah Josepha Hale, and she's the one who came up with the little song, Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Oh, my daughter loves that song.
Yeah, well, that was Sarah. She did that. But she also was she was on a letter campaign to get Thanksgiving as being a national holiday and having it on a certain day because she wanted to bring Americans together. And so Abraham Lincoln finally heeded her request in 1863 at the height of the Civil War. He had a proclamation entreating all Americans to ask God to commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife. That's a quote. And to, quote, heal the wounds of the nation. So he scheduled Thanksgiving for a final Thursday in November, and it was celebrated on that day ever since. And then in 1939, Franklin Roosevelt, president, moved the holiday up a week in an attempt to spur retail sales during the Great Depression. So, yes.
I did not know that. I mean, I knew about the Mayflower piece of it, right? But not since then, like the making it a national holiday. And all. I think that's interesting. I also find a little bit of humor about the retail side of it, right? Because Black Friday is always such a huge day.
Yes. Well, retail is huge in this country.
Oh,
right?
yes.
And so much of it is a major thing. Now, I think it's important to note that even though we kind of make this as a fun holiday and a food and a feast, there are Native Americans who feel that it's maybe portrayed a little too simplistically, and because there was, kind of masking, there's a lot of, long and bloody wars with them. And so it wasn't like everybody just was happy and nice and got along. The Pilgrims wouldn't have been able to make it without the support of Native Americans.
Yeah.
But, they are right in saying that we have a long history of very difficult times and interactions with each other from the very beginning, actually. So just important to note that as well.
Right. And Native Americans were celebrating harvest festivals around this time, which is kind of where this came from, wanting to bring the Pilgrims into that.
Absolutely. So with just a few minutes we have left, what do you guys like to eat? Like, what is your Thanksgiving meal look like? Are you having goose, codfish, and lobster? Or?
Definitely not. Although, I mean, Chris would love to do a turducken, which I love. I mean, next year I think we need to plan that. Does that sound? Turkey, duck, and chicken, right? It's like stuff one inside of the other.
So they're all deboned, and so the chicken is then stuffed inside the duck, and the duck is stuffed inside the turkey, and then around each layer you have a layer of stuffing. Oh. And so I usually order them from New Orleans, from a place there that makes them. Oh. And it used to be a lot cheaper to order them when I was in Texas, but occasionally I'll order them here too.
Wow. And, okay, that sounds pretty elaborate.
Yeah, they're really good.
We were talking about doing that next year.
I usually like a jalapeno cornbread stuffing in mine.
No.
So you have kind of a Texas Southern flavor.
She really does,
right?
Oh, yeah.
Becca, what about yours?
We stick it pretty basic. Turkey, mashed potatoes, all the normal. The one family tradition that we have is we call it pink jello. It's not really jello. I mean, it has jello in it, but I've heard of like a pink salad, but it's basically like strawberry yogurt, marshmallows, cottage cheese, jello mixture, and you like mix it all together. When my mother-in-law made it in the very beginning, she would put like canned fruit in it, but my husband doesn't like canned fruit, so we just do it without the fruit. And sometimes I'll sneak like bananas or oranges. Or
Sounds like a
something.
very Midwestern dish.
It does, you
Like it
know.
comes from there.
Yes, it definitely sounds very Midwestern, and especially now that I follow somebody on Instagram who is like a Midwestern mom who does a lot of these salads, and I'm like, oh, that's very similar to our pink salad. I would try that.
Yeah.
So
I spent some time in the Midwest, and that's all we ate.
with salads that aren't really salads. Right?
Jello salads. Yeah, cream everything in Jello.
Yes,
Yeah, it
lots
was-
of fat. That's definitely like our dessert
Lots of fish,
piece.
yeah.
But then, you know, we
Fried
also have
fish.
pies, so it's like a lot of sugary stuff. What about you?
Oh, well, it's the Traeger for me. I'm going
Oh.
to brine my turkey and overnight, and then I put it on the Traeger. And so, yeah, we're going to have some good smoked turkey coming up here. It's gonna be
Nice.
great.
That
Yeah.
sounds delicious.
Yeah, and we do all the, the regular stuff, but we try to, enhance it a little bit. So it's not so it has something, a little bit of pizzazz to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what we're doing.
One of the things I did this year, because my wife can't travel with us to go to New Mexico because of a shoulder surgery.
Ooh.
So this last weekend, I've been making croissants from scratch.
Oh.
And so it's like almost like an 18-hour process to make them.
Yeah.
And so made a whole bunch of those and froze them so that she can have croissants all through Thanksgiving, which is one of her favorites.
That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you.
Chris taught me a technique called laminating. That's not a teacher tool. It's how you make it's how you make the layers in the croissant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking like laminating paper.
Right. But apparently you laminate a croissant dough.
Right. And I was thinking like a laminating machine and putting the dough on there.
Yeah.
That's where teachers go. Yeah.
Definitely where teachers go.
Okay. Well, hey, it has been fun. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to do 20 minutes of Thanksgiving talking about it, but we did it. And hope the listeners found it a little bit interesting. Just a little bit about why you're celebrating or where it comes from in any way. And the fact that, we all have these traditions is wonderful. And I wish everybody a wonderful week off and a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
To everybody listening out there, just enjoy being with family and make the most of your time. And we look forward to seeing you back to school a week from what is it, the 27th, week of the 27th. We look to
Last
see you all back in school then and have a good holiday.
Yeah. Have fun.
Happy
Great to talk to you
holidays,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.